The Glorb shock troops, their amphibious skin blistering from capsaicin exposure, scattered in disarray across the Springfield fairgrounds. Lieutenant Kest, second in command of the invasion force, watched in horror through the mothership's observation deck as his elite warriors rolled in mud puddles and dunked their heads in water coolers. Status report, Commander Zaelk demanded, his 4 primary eyes blinking in rapid succession, a sign of extreme agitation in Glorb body language. The advance team has encountered resistance, Lieutenant Kest replied carefully. It appears humans weaponize their food. On the main view screen, a heavyset man in an apron labeled "Kiss the Cook" pursued a Glorb soldier with a ladle of steaming chili. The soldier's universal translator could be heard shrieking, "My respiratory membranes are dissolving. Retreat, retreat." Commander Zaelk's secondary limbs twitched. Impossible. Our intelligence indicated humans are a primitive species with no unified defense system. Perhaps our intelligence was incomplete, Kest suggested, bringing up footage from their cultural database. The screen displayed episodes of I Love Lucy, The Price is Right, and something called Ancient Alien Theorists Suggest, which had been particularly confusing to the Glorb cultural analysts. Meanwhile, on the ground, the situation deteriorated further. A Glorb medical officer had set up a decontamination station behind the fairgrounds' portable restrooms, where soldiers lined up to have their burning sensory organs rinsed with neutralizing solution. Nearby, a group of children had discovered an abandoned Glorb scout vehicle, approximately the size and shape of a riding lawnmower, and were taking turns sitting in it while making vroom vroom noises. The invasion's communication specialist, Officer Blurp, frantically adjusted dials on his portable transmitter. "Commander, I've established contact with a local authority figure, requesting permission to negotiate temporary ceasefire." On screen, DJ Mike Morning Madness Matthews continued his broadcast. "Folks, we've got another call from our space friends. Let's put them on air. So, Mr. Alien, how are you enjoying our annual chili cook-off? Is this your first time visiting Earth, or do you make regular trips to probe the fine citizens of the Midwest?" Officer Blurp looked confused. "Probing is scheduled for Phase 3 of the invasion. How did this human know our protocols?" In the background, fairground security, consisting of 2 retired police officers and an enthusiastic volunteer firefighter, had cordoned off a Glorb reconnaissance drone that had crashed into the prize-winning pumpkin display. A crowd gathered to take selfies with it. Back on the mothership, Commander Zaelk activated the emergency invasion protocol. Deploy the Intimidator broadcast, all frequencies. Across Springfield, televisions, radios, smartphones, and even a few particularly advanced refrigerators crackled to life. The fearsome visage of Commander Zaelk appeared, 6 limbs raised in the traditional Glorb gesture of planetary subjugation. "People of Earth," the commander began, his voice processed through the translator to sound appropriately menacing. "We are the Glorb Empire, conquerors of 17 worlds across 3 galactic quadrants. Your planet is now under our control. Resistance is." The broadcast cut to a commercial for calcium supplements. Lieutenant Kest checked the systems. "It appears the humans have an automated ad insertion technology that overrides even our most powerful transmission signals." When the broadcast resumed, Commander Zaelk was mid-sentence. "Surrender immediately or face." Cut to an advertisement for dish soap. "Consequences beyond your." Cut to a local car dealership promising prices so low, it's INVASIVALY good. By sunset, The first day of the invasion concluded with the Glorb forces retreating to their mothership, 3 scout vehicles missing, later found in the high school parking lot with "Wash Me" written in the dust, and Commander Zveilk demanding a complete reassessment of their Earth intelligence database. In his private quarters, the commander began dictating his report to the Glorb High Command. Day 1 on Earth. The humans are more formidable than anticipated. Their weaponized cuisine alone has incapacitated 30% of our force. Request immediate reinforcements and digestive protection upgrades. Also, send cultural specialists who understand something called commercial breaks. They may be key to the humans' unusual defense systems. 3 days into the invasion, the Glorb mothership's cultural analysis chamber had transformed into what Commander Zveilk could only describe as chaotic. The walls, normally displaying strategic battle maps, now featured printouts of human memes, social media screenshots, and a large poster of something called a mood board. Explain again. Commander Zveilk demanded of Communication Officer Blurb, who had somehow acquired a hoodie with the phrase "Keep calm and conquer on" printed across the front. Our research indicates humans respond to authority figures who achieve viral status. Blurb explained, adjusting his newly acquired Earth accessory. We've created 37 pieces of content designed to establish dominance through this viral communication method. On the main screen, their latest attempt at human psychological warfare played. A TikTok video featuring 3 Glorb soldiers attempting a complicated dance routine to "Who Run the World? Glorbs," with Commander Zveilk awkwardly green-screened into the background pointing at Earth and making threatening gestures. Current metrics. Zveilk asked, 4 eyes blinking asynchronously. 12 views, 3 likes, and 1 comment that says, "Nice costume, Lo. What's this promoting?" Lieutenant Kest reported. However, a human child's video of one of our patrol drones being chased by their domesticated canine has received 2.7 million views and something called a DIT chain. The commander slammed all 6 appendages onto the console. How are we to establish planetary dominance if humans won't take our content seriously? Meanwhile, the Glorb's translation team had encountered even greater difficulties. Officer Grusbeck, head of linguistic analysis, presented their findings with visible distress, his skin shifting to a pale orange. Humans don't communicate literally, Grusbeck explained. When they say "I'm dying," they often continue living. That "sick" is apparently positive, and this phrase, "Netflix and chill," has nothing to do with temperature regulation while watching entertainment. Lieutenant Kest nodded grimly. That particular misunderstanding led to an unfortunate diplomatic incident in Sector 7. On the view screen, footage showed a Glorb scout team entering what they believed was a strategic meeting after being invited to Netflix and chill by several college students. The resulting confusion ended with the Glorbs bringing cooling equipment and analyzing Stranger Things, as if it were documentary footage about Earth's defense capabilities. Our latest initiative seems promising, Officer Blurb said hopefully, pulling up a new screen. We've identified their information distribution network, called Twitter, and deployed our bot farm to spread messages of Glorb superiority. The screen displayed their automated messages. Humans must surrender to Glorbs. #Monday motivation #blessed. And resistance is futile. #Throwback Thursday #TPT #no filter. Results? Commander Zveilk asked. We've been ratioed whatever that means, and humans are responding with images of what they call our vibe. It appears to be a fictional character named Kermit from something called The Muppets. The final straw came when the Glorb's Cyber Warfare Division, thinking they were targeting Earth's Central Command Network, successfully hacked Netflix's servers, causing a global streaming outage. Rather than creating the panic they expected, they instead united humanity in unprecedented outrage. The human leader customer service representative Kevin has been inundated with communications demanding immediate restoration, reported Officer Gersbeck. They seem more concerned about missing their shows than our armada of death spheres currently orbiting their major cities. In his private quarters that evening, Commander Zalek updated his increasingly frustrated log entry. Day 4 on Earth. Our psychological warfare is ineffective. Humans appear to operate on communication principles that defy logic. They respond to our threats with memes and seem more concerned with entertainment than survival. Most troubling, they've begun roasting our invasion force on all channels. I had to explain to High Command what it means to be cringe. Tomorrow we deploy conventional weapons. Glorb culture cannot withstand much more exposure to TikTok. Commander Zalek stood in the mothership's war room, surrounded by his increasingly dishevelled officers. The holographic display showed 15 of their fearsome annihilator mechs deployed across Earth's major cities, or rather, it showed where they should have been standing. Instead, the display depicted a series of embarrassing mechanical failures that the commander could barely bring himself to watch. Perhaps we should review the Chicago deployment first, Lieutenant Kest suggested, his voice carefully neutral. It seemed the most promising, initially. The footage showed an impressive 60-foot annihilator mech stomping through downtown Chicago, causing appropriate levels of human panic. Things proceeded according to invasion protocol for approximately 3 minutes until the mech attempted to cross the Chicago River. Our intelligence indicated the depth was suitable, Engineering Officer Flicks explained as they watched the mech confidently stride into the water, only to disappear entirely beneath the surface. Apparently, humans routinely dye this river green, which affected our depth sensors. And the rescue attempt? Commander Zalek asked wearily. The footage continued, showing 3 smaller mechs attempting to retrieve their submerged comrade. The first slipped on the riverbank, the second became entangled in what appeared to be a tourist boat, and the third successfully reached the submerged mech, but then couldn't return to shore because a gathering crowd of humans was busy taking selfies with it in the background. Moving on to Tokyo, Lieutenant Kest said quickly, switching the display. The Tokyo footage initially showed a successful deployment, with a mech towering over Shibuya Crossing. The problem arose when local residents, rather than fleeing in terror, began taking photos and creating spontaneous fan art of the Kawaii invasion robot. Within hours, the mech had inspired a merchandise line, and teenagers were dressing like glorbs in what humans called cosplay. Most concerning is what happened in London. Officer Flicks continued, bringing up new footage. The London mech had accidentally stepped on a double-decker bus, causing minimal damage but greatly inconveniencing Margaret Whitfield, 85, who had been on her way to her weekly bridge game. The footage showed the elderly human emerging from the bus, completely unharmed, but visibly irritated, tapping her umbrella against the mech's foot to get its attention. Young man Mrs. Whitfield could be heard saying to the mech pilot, "I understand you're trying to conquer our planet, but that's no excuse for poor road safety. In my day, even interplanetary invaders had the decency to look both ways before crossing." The camera zoomed in on the cockpit, showing the confused Glorb pilot being thoroughly lectured about pedestrian right-of-way by the indignant octogenarian, who then demanded the mech escort her to our bridge club, "since you've made me terribly late." And our aquatic assault units? Commander Zalek asked, dreading the answer. The final footage showed their precision-engineered underwater craft rising from Miami's coastline, only to become instantly entangled in discarded plastic waste. As the crafts struggled to free themselves, a pod of curious dolphins began to nudge and play with the vessels, triggering their sensitive external sensors and sending them spinning in circles. The coup de grace came when a boat full of spring break revelers spotted one craft that had successfully surfaced, mistook it for a new type of party vessel, and attempted to board it en masse, spilling beverages into its propulsion vents and causing it to sink again amid cheers and electronic dance music. Commander Zaelk sank into his command chair, all four eyes closed in defeat. Casualties. None, Commander, Lieutenant Kest reported. The humans seem to find our efforts entertaining. Entertainment, Zaelk muttered. That may be the most effective weapon these humans possess. The United Nations General Assembly Hall buzzed with tension as world leaders gathered for this unprecedented meeting. Security was tight, media coverage was global, and the air was thick with a combination of anxiety and curiosity as humanity prepared for its first official diplomatic exchange with an alien civilization. Commander Zaelk adjusted his Earth formal attire one last time before entering. The Glorb Cultural Database had provided conflicting information about proper human diplomatic dress, so he had opted for what the analysis team assured him was comprehensive formal coverage. The result was a patchwork ensemble. Tuxedo jacket on his upper torso, swimming trunks with flamingo print on his lower half, a sombrero perched precariously between his eye stalks, and 6 individual crocs, one for each limb. Remember, Lieutenant Kest whispered as they approached the entrance, humans respect confident posturing and frequent mentions of economic sanctions. I have studied their diplomatic broadcasts extensively, Commander Zaelk assured him. Their program called Real Housewives Summit was particularly informative. The Glorb delegation entered to a stunned silence. Hundreds of diplomats, world leaders, and media representatives stared as Commander Zaelk approached the podium, his crocs squeaking with each step across the polished floor. "Greetings, Earth Spatula," the commander began, his universal translator already malfunctioning. "The Glorb Empire comes spatula peace, so long as you acknowledge our spatula dominance." Confused murmurs spread through the assembly. Unaware of the translation error, Commander Zaelk continued, "Your planet will benefit greatly from becoming spatula of our glorious empire. We offer technological spatula and cultural integration." The UN Secretary-General leaned toward an aide. "Is this some form of alien idiom?" The aide shrugged helplessly. Gaining confidence, Commander Zaelk reached the crescendo of his speech. "Resistance would be most stimulating for us both," the translator rendered incorrectly, adding an unfortunate suggestive tone to his threat. A few diplomats coughed uncomfortably, while others suppressed inappropriate laughter. "Allow me to demonstrate the technological superiority that awaits you under Glorb Spatula," the commander announced, reaching for the control panel on his ceremonial armband. He intended to project images of Glorb technological marvels, advanced medicine, faster than light travel, zero-point energy. Instead, he activated the ship's recreational database. The giant screens around the General Assembly suddenly displayed the Glorb equivalent of vacation slideshows. Images flashed by Commander Zaelk at the Glorb Empire's largest water park, Lieutenant Kest failing at a dance competition, and most mortifyingly, the entire invasion planning committee at their pre-mission celebration party, wearing matching Earth or Bust's ceremonial headbands. Desperate to regain control, Commander Zaelk jabbed repeatedly at his armband. This only made matters worse, cycling through increasingly embarrassing personal media. The final image showed the commander himself, much younger, participating in what appeared to be the glorb version of a talent show, attempting to play a musical instrument with his secondary limbs, while balancing on his primary ones. As if the situation couldn't deteriorate further, the floral arrangements decorating the hall, specifically selected to represent Earth's botanical diversity, triggered an unexpected allergic reaction in the glorb delegation. Commander Zalek's formal address was interrupted by the first sneeze, which according to glorb physiology involved a sudden expulsion of air that propelled him backward several feet. Lieutenant Kest succumbed next, his sneeze launching him into a display of flags. One by one, the glorb diplomats began an involuntary retreat, each propelled backward by powerful sneezes, creating what human news outlets would later describe as the moonwalk of diplomatic failures. The commander, desperately trying to maintain dignity while being repeatedly propelled toward the exit, managed one final statement. "We will spatula with your leaders again when our spatula demands are met." He then disappeared through the doors in a final powerful sneeze. CNN's senior diplomatic correspondent turned to the camera. "There you have it. First contact apparently hinging on spatulas." 3 weeks into the invasion, Commander Zalek held an emergency strategy session aboard the mothership. The holographic displays showed a troubling pattern. Glorb forces were retreating across multiple sectors, not due to military defeats, but because of unprecedented human response tactics that no invasion manual had prepared them for. "Explain the situation in Sector 4 again," the commander demanded, gesturing at footage from a suburban Minnesota neighborhood. Lieutenant Kest cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Our patrol unit encountered a human education facility for small offspring, a kindergarten." The commanding officer followed protocol, attempting to establish dominance and gather intelligence on Earth's future warriors. The footage showed 6 heavily armed glorb soldiers entering a colourful classroom, where a calm teacher in her mid-50s smiled pleasantly at them. "Welcome visitors," the teacher said warmly. "We're just about to play red light, green light. Would you like to join us?" What followed was 20 minutes of increasingly confused glorb soldiers attempting to master the children's game, with 5-year-olds laughing hysterically every time the aliens moved during a red light and had to return to the starting line. By the end, the patrol unit commander was earnestly asking a pigtailed human child for strategic advice on how to improve his freezing technique. "They've been there for 6 hours now," Lieutenant Kest reported. "The last communication requested permission to stay for just one more game and something called snack time." Commander Zalek's eye stalks drooped in dismay. And the situation in Florida. The footage shifted to a retirement community where a glorb reconnaissance team had established an observation post. Their mission to monitor human behavior had been derailed when residents of the community discovered them and, rather than fleeing in terror, welcomed them enthusiastically. "These elderly humans have immobilized our forces with what they call conversation," Officer Blurp explained. "They keep showing images of smaller humans they claim are genetically related to them and asking our troops about dietary preferences. 3 soldiers have already accepted invitations to something called Bridge Night." The commander shuddered. "And our most secure communications channel." "Compromised," Engineering Officer Flicks admitted. "It appears human IT departments have somehow gained access to our systems. All interfaces now require verification that we are not a robot every 30 seconds. The footage showed frustrated glorb technicians attempting to identify traffic lights and crosswalks in grainy images, while the mothership's speakers played what humans called hold music. Specifically, an instrumental version of The Girl from Ipanema on an endless loop. Most concerning was the failure of their mind control technology. The Glorbs had deployed their psychic influence ray, a weapon that had subdued entire civilizations on other worlds. On Earth, however, the effects were negligible. "We've analyzed the phenomenon," Science Officer Gleep reported. "Humans are already so constantly distracted by their own devices and media that our additional influence barely registers. In fact, in some test subjects, our mind control actually improved focus and productivity." One monitoring screen showed a human who, under the influence of the Glorb mind control ray, had finally organized their email inbox, finished their taxes, and completed a long-procrastinated home repair project. Commander Zaelk massaged his temples with 2 of his limbs. "So what you're telling me is, kindergarten teachers have neutralized our troops with children's games. Elderly humans have compromised our intelligence gathering with excessive socialization. Earth's technical support departments have hacked our secure communications. And our mind control actually helps humans be more efficient." "Correct, Commander," Lieutenant Kest confirmed. "Additionally, 3 of our soldiers have started a book club with the humans from Sector 7, and your personal assistant has requested time off to attend something called a pottery class with their New Earth friends." The commander slumped in his chair. The High Command is not going to believe any of this. The Glorb scientific team huddled in their hidden observation post, which was actually a rented minivan parked outside a shopping mall in suburban Ohio. Lead researcher Splort adjusted his human disguise. 3 Glorbs precariously stacked beneath a trench coat with a fake mustache attached to the top Glorb's face. "Report on Observation Mission Gamma," Commander Zaelk demanded through their secure communication channel, which occasionally picked up local radio stations playing hits from the 1980s. "Most perplexing, Commander," Splort replied. "We've completed 3 major anthropological studies, and our findings are troubling." The first mission had taken the scientific team to a comic convention in San Diego. The researchers, disguised as what they believed were inconspicuous humans, blended in perfectly among attendees dressed as space travelers, superheroes, and fantasy creatures. Humans gather in large numbers to worship beings with extraordinary powers, Splort explained, showing footage of enthusiastic fans meeting actors and collecting signed memorabilia. They create elaborate costumes to honor these entities and engage in ritualistic exchanges of currency for sacred objects bearing their images. The scientists had been particularly concerned when humans kept asking to take photos with them, assuming their disguises had failed, only to receive compliments on their awesome original alien cosplay. "Most concerning," Splort continued, "many humans believed we were promoting an upcoming entertainment product and kept asking which streaming service would carry our show." The second mission had taken them to a corporate team-building retreat at a mid-priced hotel conference center. The scientists watched in horror as humans engaged in trust falls, egg drop competitions, and something called enforced karaoke. "We observed humans in their work hierarchy engaging in ritualistic humiliation ceremonies," Splort reported, showing footage of office workers reluctantly participating in a 3-legged race. They appear to strengthen workplace bonds through shared embarrassment and light psychological torture administered by specialized humans called consultants. But it was the third mission that truly broke their understanding of humanity. The team had accidentally infiltrated a community theatre production of a popular musical, mistaking it for formal human governmental proceedings due to the elaborate costumes and heightened emotions. "Commander, humans regularly gather to watch others perform stylized reenactments of emotions while synchronized vocalization occurs. Splort explained, his voice trembling. Sometimes the humans in the audience join in this vocalization. Other times they remain silent, but leak fluid from their visual organs. We cannot determine if this is recreational or religious in nature. The footage showed confused Glorb scientists sitting in theatre seats, completely bewildered as the audience around them alternated between laughter, tears, and spontaneous applause. Our findings are so contradictory that the only logical conclusion is that Earth itself may be affecting our perception. Splort concluded, possibly through atmospheric components unknown to our science. This theory gained significant support when another research team, assigned to study human sustenance patterns, had become completely enamored with Earth's fast food. Surveillance footage showed a senior Glorb researcher in the parking lot of a drive-through restaurant, furtively trading what appeared to be advanced alien technology for a paper bag. Just one more of the delicacies humans call mozzarella sticks, the scientist whispered to a confused but opportunistic teenager working the night shift. I can give you the specifications for our faster-than-light propulsion system. Please. The cheese. It pulls apart in strings. It's magnificent. Commander Zleilk terminated the communication link and stared blankly at the wall of his command center. The initial invasion force had been prepared for human weapons, for resistance, even for defeat. But no one had prepared them for community theatre, corporate team building, or the apparently addictive properties of fried cheese products. Perhaps, the commander muttered to himself, some planets should remain unconquered. The command deck of the Glorb mothership bore little resemblance to its appearance when they first arrived at Earth. Gone were the stark, minimalist design elements that exemplified Glorb military efficiency. Now, potted plants from Earth-decorated corners, motivational posters featuring cats hanging from branches with phrases like, "Hang in there," adorned walls, and someone had installed a coffee machine that gurgled continuously. Commander Zleilk stepped out of the elevator and froze, watching in disbelief as two junior officers quickly minimized screens on their consoles. "Were you monitoring Earth defense systems?" he asked hopefully. "Yes, Commander." "Absolutely," one officer replied too quickly. As Zleilk approached, the officer accidentally bumped his console, revealing a fantasy football draft in progress. "Explain this," the commander demanded, his 4 eyes narrowing to slits. "Research, sir," the officer stammered. "We're studying human competitive strategies through their sports ball activities. Did you know humans will spend hours optimizing theoretical teams that don't actually exist? It's fascinating." Before Zleilk could respond, Lieutenant Kest approached with a data pad. "Commander, we have multiple situations requiring your attention." The first report concerned the engineering division, tasked with reverse engineering human technology to find exploitable weaknesses. Instead, they had become obsessed with creating the perfect social media algorithm. They claim it's strategic, Kest explained as they watched footage of Glorb engineers hunched over terminals. Apparently, if they can perfect content delivery, we can optimize engagement with Conquest messaging across target demographics. Are they making progress? Zleilk asked. They've created 17 prototype algorithms. All of them mainly suggest videos of small Earth creatures making vocal sounds and humans falling down. The second report came from the Invasion's accounting department. The severe-looking Glorb financial officer on screen wore an Earth accessory known as a green eye shade and clutched a calculator with obvious distress. The Invasion is precisely 342% over budget, the accountant reported. Primary unexpected expenditures include Earth snack foods, streaming service subscriptions, and something called limited edition collectibles. The most troubling report involved Zayok's elite squadron leaders, who should have been planning the next phase of military operations. When he entered their strategy room, he found half of them gathered around instruments fashioned from Earth materials and ship parts. "Commander!" exclaimed Squadron Leader Vricht, hastily putting down a makeshift guitar. "We were just exploring human acoustic warfare techniques." "You've started a band," Zayok stated flatly. "We call ourselves the Invaders." Too on the nose? We considered planetary subjugation, but it doesn't roll off the tongue. Meanwhile, in the ship's technical division, Commander Zayok discovered his crew attempting to recreate human internet dances using their 6 limbs. The technical director, caught mid-movement, attempted to explain. Human rhythmic movements contain hidden mathematical sequences crucial to understanding their cognitive patterns, he offered weakly. Also, having 6 limbs gives us a significant advantage in this activity they call TikTok. That evening, Commander Zayok prepared to address his remaining loyal officers, determined to reignite their conquest spirit with a rousing speech about Glorb superiority. He had just reached the podium when his personal assistant scurried in. "Commander, wonderful news. Your Earth-inspired lifestyle blog, Conquering Your Best Life, has just gained its 1,000th subscriber. Humans are particularly enjoying your posts on 6-limbed yoga and intergalactic interior design tips." As the gathered officers burst into congratulatory applause, Zayok realized he felt something unfamiliar, a sense of pride that had nothing to do with military conquest. He found himself thanking the officers and promising to post new content soon, completely forgetting the war speech he had prepared. Later, alone in his quarters, the commander stared at his reflection. Perhaps, he mused to himself, there are different kinds of conquest. 2 months after the Glorbs first arrived on Earth, a massive communication arrived from the Glorb High Command. The mothership's officers gathered anxiously in the main hall, which now featured beanbag chairs, a snack table with Earth treats, and a casual Friday banner that had somehow become permanent despite Lieutenant Kest's objections. Commander Zayok stood before his assembled crew, the official communication tablet in his primary hands, a cup of coffee in a secondary hand, and a stress ball that looked like Earth squeezed nervously in another. "Fellow Glorbs," he began solemnly, "the High Command has reviewed our situation and reached a decision regarding the Earth invasion." A tense silence fell over the gathering. Many officers glanced nervously at their human accessories, from baseball caps to smartphone holders adapted for 6-limbed use. Effective immediately, all Glorb forces are to withdraw from Earth, the commander announced. The official reason cited is unsuitable conquest conditions and cultural integration concerns. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Officer Blurp raised a limb. "Sir, what does cultural integration concerns mean exactly?" The commander sighed. "In their private communication to me, the High Command expressed fear that returning Glorb soldiers might spread, and I quote, dangerous ideological contaminants such as weekend recreational time, casual business attire, and the concept of employee satisfaction surveys." The assembled officers exchanged glances. Some looked relieved, others disappointed. From the back, someone called out, "What about our fantasy football league? We're mid-season." As the initial shock subsided, preparations for departure began. However, something unexpected happened during the final peace negotiations with Earth representatives. As the diplomats worked through technical details, both sides realized potential benefits of limited cultural exchange. Humans receive access to certain non-military Glorb technologies, Lieutenant Kest explained, reviewing the agreement terms. In exchange, the Glorb Empire receives exclusive streaming rights to Earth's entertainment content. Is that really a fair trade? Asked a skeptical UN representative. You're faster-than-light communication technology for our television shows and movies. You underestimate how popular Earth content has become throughout our empire, Kest replied. The High Command's private communications indicate Friends has caused a 300% increase in communal living requests, and the Great British Bake Off has revolutionized our nutrient consumption rituals. The most surprising development came when Commander Zveilk announced his personal decision. Standing before the United Nations again, this time in appropriate attire and with antihistamines for the floral arrangements, he declared his intention to remain on Earth. My time observing humans has revealed that conquest is not the only path to fulfillment, he explained. I have discovered a talent for what you call observational humor regarding the differences between our species. 6 months later, Commander Zveilk, now known professionally as Zach Six Arms, found unprecedented success as a stand-up comedian. His routine, "You Might Be an Alien If," became a global sensation, and his memoir, "How I Failed to Conquer Earth and Found My True Calling," topped bestseller lists for 28 weeks. Earth established an annual First Contact Day holiday, featuring parades, special edition snack foods, and costume contests with prizes for most accurate Glorb and most creative misunderstanding of human culture. As for the Glorb Empire, they added a crucial first step to their planetary conquest protocol. Advanced scouts were now required to check if target worlds produced anything resembling hot sauce, reality television, or catchy music. Planets meeting these criteria were automatically classified as unsuitable for conquest, but ideal for content licensing agreements. 5 years after the invasion, Lieutenant Kest, now Earth's Glorb ambassador, sat in a cafe in Geneva, enjoying Earth coffee with an adaptation that accommodated his unique physiology. A human child approached, pointing excitedly. "Are you a real alien?" the child asked. Kest smiled, all 4 eyes crinkling. "Indeed I am. We came to conquer your world, but instead your world conquered us." The child considered this thoughtfully. "With weapons?" "No," Kest replied, sipping his coffee. "With streaming services, snack foods, and the concept of weekends. Much more effective than any weapon we've ever encountered."